It's just I'm definitely not flirting with a girl in a church.
You guys.
Hello and welcome. My name is Alex Gonzalez. And today is my good old friend, J.E.
Hey, that's me.
And please remember that we are not game devs. How are you doing today, Jay?
I'm doing all right, Alex. There's going to be a couple noises in the background if you haven't caught
Noises.
that. Yeah, there's a helicopter. Oh, and a dog. But there's a helicopter that has been flying.
I just hear the collective chanting of a protest outside.
Right. No, it's just right above my building. So if you hear
purge siren just go off at curfew.
Yeah.
But those are not the world events that we are talking about today. Today, we are creating something new. Every week, We Are Not Game Devs will create a new, exciting video game idea that we have always wanted to play, but do not have any knowledge or know how to create the wonderful experience that are video games. And today is my turn to present We Are Not Game Devs' 106th IP. And we're going to begin with this basic concept, all right? VR gardening.
Whoa.
I want you to be able to set up a VR patio, a VR apartment. The point is, you're going to be, I don't know what you're going to do, whether you can, I want there to be one mode where you take care of flowers over a given period. So you can also, it doesn't matter about the climate, you can get the most rarest plants, including trees, or another one where you can decorate a room and be given a score. What do you think?
There's two games that stand out to me, one way more than the other. I'll talk about the lesser right now. Have you ever played a game called Grow?
No.
I did not like this game.
Man, that's a great name.
It is, but I did not like this game. But it kind of reminds me because you played it, I could see it translated to VR very easily. Grow, it wasn't a VR game, but I could see it translated to one where you played this AI. You control both its legs with R2, I think, and L2, and its arms with L1, R1, or whatever. It's like one of those games, but you go around planting trees on planets, and then you grow them to get to higher areas. Anyway, that's lesser. I kind of want to get away from that, actually. What I want to focus on, have you played... Yeah. So... 3DS had these games called Street Pass games, right?
Yeah.
And they had...
You were so into these.
I was so into these.
Then again, at this time, when you had 3DS Street Pass to qualify it, you were in college meeting tons of new people with the Disneyland annual pass, passing by tons of people. And then you also were going to social events and community service events where you would also meet tons of people from the community.
I was going to mention Disneyland because that's when Street Pass was my favorite thing to do. Because when you go to Disneyland, every hour...
You told me, and it revolutionized it. It made it a lot more fun.
Every time you go to the next line, you open up full Street Pass list. You are packed. And you have
not only that,
so much
but from different parts of the world, like very unique, interesting parts.
Very, very cool. You see some awesome Miis when you did Street Pass in Disneyland. Anyway,
and special ones. You would run into special Miis.
You would.
I remember.
Yeah. But I loved the Street Pass games, and one of my favorite Street Pass games was this gardening Street Pass game. Alex is just making faces to his significant other right now, and I'm trying to decipher what he's talking about. But do you remember the gardening Street Pass game?
No, I only got the basic Street Pass game. So there was Find Me. Find Me is what I principally played.
Was the fishing game one of the base ones?
No, there was one where you could shoot people out of the air and like different faces.
Oh, that one sucked. I didn't like that one. But yeah, no, the Street Pass games, the expansion pack Street Pass games were the shining jewels that no one played except for me.
I think I'll just say the 3DS and the Vita. People are already talking about it, but they were much better than I think what people gave credit for.
The Vita is great. The Vita is a great system, and they tried Street Pass, just a terrible version of it. Whereas the 3DS, it was made and kind of made around Street Pass almost.
It was definitely intended to be a social system,
especially since it's from Japan, where people are crossing each other's paths constantly. But this gardening game was awesome, where when you Street Pass someone, they would bring along with them a seed, right? And then you put that seed into your seed collection. And I believe I'm a little iffy on exactly what you did because it's been years since I played this game. But I believe you could crossbreed the seeds that you already have gotten from other Miis that you've passed by. So you start off with your own, and then as you street pass, you gather more seeds, and then you could trade those seeds for other seeds. And then eventually you can mix those together, and they would come up, and you would create brand new plants, brand new stuff, and then from those you'd get seeds to trade off to other people. And there was like rarity levels and stuff that you could get. I think you could like get better versions of certain seeds, and like the hybrids could breed with other hybrid. Like I believe it was that in depth. Like it was an awesome gardening game. And you had multiple gardens. You had a shop that you could buy stuff to decorate these gardens that you'd buy. So it's like GTA 5 online garages where you could get like the garden that has like 10 spaces to display your coolest hybrid plants and flowers, right? And then you could decorate it with like, oh, this plant's gonna be in a juice box, and this one's gonna be in like a I don't know, like a weird half bottle. You know what I mean? Like the
I
decorations
see.
got intense.
So we're going to stand on the shoulders of giants, and we're going to include some of those mechanics. What we're also going to include is I want to teach people to take care of plants, and I want there to be a scale where plants will be more difficult to be taken care of. I want there to be something where, there's easy, normal, and then we're going to call the last one realistic. And I think the best way to teach them would be we're going to start them off with a basic plant in a tutorial mode and teach them the basics of watering, sun placement, and doing all that. Eventually, you'll get a more advanced plant for a novice where you'll have to trim it and adjust maybe soil levels and repot it. And then eventually, I want to get to the point where you're like doing bonsai, you're modern, like you can get to the point where you're monitoring soil pH levels if you want a difficult plant. But if you want to play this game and just enjoy what you're doing and maybe have it a little bit more cathartic, you'd rank down the difficulty to like normal.
And maybe there could be like a side of the game where it's more like manure versus soil levels and stuff like that, and mixing new soils together and stuff to create. Maybe like there's a part of the game where there's mixing soils, there's crossbreeding plants, and so like the mixing of soils is so like you could find the optimal soil for certain plants for optimal growth and better flower or better outcome, right? Whatever you're trying to harvest, probably the flower, the fruit, the nut, whatever, a vegetable, whatever it is. And so if you want to get that technical, you could have the game do it for you, or you could mix the mixture yourself, like get different ingredients from the store to mix in your own mixtures to make your own soils to grow different plants that are optimal for that soil. There should be like also a Flowerpedia where it tells you this plant optimizes in this soil. So you could get groupings of plants that use the same soil type and then also plant them all in the same soil, right?
And on top of all this, I do want there to be, like I said, objective based, where you'll be decorating and kind of putting plants in depending on the location of where you're at, outdoor garden versus indoor, what location. But then I also want there to be free play where you can just set up atriums, and there you can adjust the weather. So you can have Mediterranean atrium
that should also
connect to a tropical.
Be eventually an upgrade you could purchase. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like eventually, like you could buy a greenhouse, and then maybe you could get an atrium and then adjust it that way. So like I think there should be stages where you first start off with a simple. Maybe it could even be like a planter on the side of like a home. You know what I mean? Like just a simple planter, and then you start off with 4 or 5 plants. And then you could evolve to getting a garden or like a plot, and then in like a communal garden, and then eventually when you earn enough cash, I don't know how the money and where you're getting seeds and decorations and where the cash is coming in from.
I think this will just be unlocked by experience, and maybe for some rarer plants through objective based. I don't want this game to be stressful, however, so I always want there to be like a guiding hand. I'll call out Nintendo, that's especially good for this, where it's like, and remember, for Arctic plants, they need much less sun, or, and then they would kind of guide you in the way
maybe
of getting there.
We could take
there would be gentle nudges.
We could take a page out of Animal Crossing New Horizons book where they have these daily objectives and lifetime objectives, right? And as you finish these, you get these things called Nuke Miles, which you redeem for certain things. We could have a similar thing where there's lifetime objectives like grow 5 plants, grow 10 plants, grow 25, 100, 1,000. You know what I mean? And then you get a certain
Yeah.
amount of money and maybe a packet of seeds and then maybe some decorations for other objectives. Like depending on what they like, if you do place 5 decorations, you get like a free decoration. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
maybe there could be something like a loot box system, not like a big one, but like a small one. With every level up, you get this cool box, and it's a random gift out of all the stuff in the catalog. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it can't be something you've already gotten.
Yeah.
And that's just going to be every time you maybe level up like you said.
Right.
And I kind of like that where as you're doing, no matter what you're doing, you're working towards unlocking something.
Yeah. And then there are daily objectives, before I forget. It's just like small, quick things like water plants 3 times today. And if you do that, then you'll get like this much experience points and this much money. So there's always something to do. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
in Animal Crossing, it's Nintendo fied, so it's super easy where that refreshes every time you beat one. So you get 5. I don't know if you know this, but you get 5 daily objectives, and then those are multiplied, the rewards. And then as you complete those, you get new ones refreshed. Every time you beat one, you get one refreshed. But the new ones, besides the top 5 that you got at the beginning of the day, don't have that multiplier. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like it could be like plant 5 trees and then you get 500 Nook miles times 2. But then the next one's like talk to 3 villagers, you get 200 Nook miles, but no multiplication. You just get the 200. You know what I'm saying?
Got it. Yeah, yeah.
So it could be something like that where there's continual daily events that never end. You could keep doing those to keep getting money and seeds and decorations and stuff, just so you always have something you could just do if you don't want to go for lifetime goals or if you want to play more casually. But then there's lifetime goals that let you aim for something. Like you could read them all and be like, oh, you get something if you crossbreed uh 100 plants, right? So maybe someone who didn't really crossbreed before, they're like, oh, I didn't know crossbreeding was that big. Maybe I should start doing that. And so they
Mhm.
open up a new avenue. You know what I mean?
And I want this game to be, like I said, I want it I want some skills to transfer over. So if you feel like you start to pick it up, you could actually grow that plant in real life. If you feel like you can grow the tomato, you can grow it in real life. So I also want there to be pests. And I don't want it to be that big of a deal. Like, let's say if for some reason we're twinging it, we'll just have like a little side note. Like, remember, snails in your apartment may be a little bit more numerous and a little bit more aggressive as we talk about, the plant in the game.
Yeah.
But I want there to you also face that way if someone really liked what they were doing, found that they actually liked gardening and wanted to start it in their own life, it wouldn't be a big jump.
Right. But we'd also gamify it a little bit. Like I think for pests, you could either get rid of them like maybe 3 different ways. One's use
Yeah.
pesticide. One's used like a eco-friendly, non-harmful pesticide, like spraying essential oils or something to just drive pests away. And the third one is manually just getting rid of them, and that's the most gamified
Let's do
version.
4. And then there's another one where if you have a lot of resources, you can buy natural predators.
I see. Yeah, yeah.
So aphids, it's ladybugs.
But I don't know if you know this about gardening, but there's even gardening techniques where you grow a plant with other plants, and that plant's only purpose is literally to drive away other pests. You know what I
oh
mean?
yeah, like a certain smells or mint
like you
plants or
grow
something like
mint,
that.
exactly, to drive away pests that normally would crowd who are avid gardeners, but I don't know what mint drives away. But let's say it drives away whatever pests are attracted to strawberries, right? So you plant mint
Mhm.
and strawberries together, stuff like that. There's like combinations that you could do also. So I guess 5 ways.
Okay, cool. So we kind of have basic gameplay down, right? Do you feel like you kind of understand where it goes? I think this game could just scale up to where you're eventually taking care of crazy plants. I think we could even do challenge series where like it would be fun just borrowing from maybe racing game ideas where it's like carnivorous plants. And then there's different challenges where you're raising carnivorous plants.
I want to adapt. I want to bring that one step further. What if we have events where every month we have a new plant of the week, like a special plant that we just created for that month? So this is going to be kind of like a games of service ongoing type of game, but
Mm-hmm.
every month or so we'll release a seed, and we'll give the seed to every player that plays that month. And you have it's never going to take the entire month to grow this seed. But let's say sometimes the seed takes a week to grow, sometimes takes 3 days. Like it's different for every seed, but it's a special plant that's new to the game. That's how we add new plants to the game. And it's one of the more difficult plants to grow in the game. Like these are like end game plants, but these are like monthly releases for like end game content. And there's like a worldwide or regional competition where whoever gets the best rating on the final product of this seed gets this much experience, this much money, and maybe a seed pack or something. You know what I mean? Where
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
it's like a monthly.
It'll be a competition thing, and then we'll have it where different ranks of people, and depending on how well you placed, will get you different rewards.
Yeah, like this week, this one seed that we give out can only grow in this soil with this temperature, and it needs to be like perfect type of thing. You know what I mean? To get the
Yeah.
optimal thing, and whoever gets the most best fruit or flower bloom or whatever it's called, um, like the top 100 get a prize or whatever. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah,
Real
yeah.
quick, can we make one erase from this where I just don't think I get the idea of why you want it to be in VR. I just feel like you lose a lot of quality moving over to
In terms of
VR.
gameplay
Not gameplay, I
mechanics.
mean visually. Cuz I imagine this game to be a PC, PS5, Xbox Series X new
I'm
title.
down. Yeah, I just want it to look or feel like you're gardening. And I mean, if you want to do it, if you want to put PlayStation Move controllers or figure that out, or just have it controller based, that's fine too.
Like we
I
can't
guess you can.
like I
Like, I'm
understand.
not married to the idea.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a deal.
I want it to
Big of a
look
deal.
better rather than compromise
Play.
look
Yeah. And
over.
I think players would want their plants to look good too. So I understand that.
But the thing
It
is,
makes more
I
sense.
also don't know how amazing Index from Valve or like how amazing Oculus Rift? No.
Yeah.
Oculus. Is it
Nope.
Oculus
Oculus
Rift?
Rift.
Is that not Samsung? Samsung Vive, Oculus Rift, right? I don't
Yes.
know how amazing those are because my VR experiences are PSVR, and also I did the Star Wars experience at Disneyland Adventure down or not Disneyland downtown, which the Void. Oh my god, best VR experience I've ever done. Really, it's really impressive, and it looks great. And of course Disneyland. So when it's fire, they put fire in your face and shit, so you feel the heat. Anyway,
So we'll switch it over so that it's more weighted on graphics. I like that anyway. That way it's more rewarding when
yeah,
your plant blooms or when
maybe
your desert cactus has a flower, what have you.
maybe later on we could add a VR component to it. Maybe we could build it to be VR compatible, but when VR gets to a certain maybe the Index can do it. I don't know. I've never played the Index. So from what I hear, the Index is amazing. Like I see what you mean where it would be awesome like you're doing the movements like watering the plants, digging up roots and shit like that. But from my
The
experience with VR,
technology isn't there yet.
to my knowledge, just
No,
because
I hear you. And I would want the graphics to be best.
yeah,
So,
that's what I'm thinking. Where the graphics are like top notch for this.
and now we know we can just say it, graphics are going to be top notch.
Yeah,
So for music, I think here, wouldn't it be cool if you could kind of choose your own music? Like there was a little radio in whatever space you had, like a tiny little, not anything fancy, just a little radio, and you kind of just import your own music and just like whatever you put on, the plants like.
I mean that'd be cool,
Because
but
otherwise, I feel like the music's going to be like some very inconsequential waiting music,
yeah,
just very mellow.
like I was thinking like flower music. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, okay. This is a little bit of a side, but I'm obsessed with this anime called Carol and Tuesday on Netflix.
Mhm.
And I just met this character in the anime called Desmond who lives in a literal garden. And the reason why this musician chooses to live there is because flowers naturally
Like
associate with
music, and
music.
they
Yeah.
grow.
And that's like not common, but that's a known thing that flowers like music.
Yeah, third grade science projects everywhere test this hypothesis every year.
Yeah. So it's true that I would like music more than just the flower, little orchestraic, like classical jingles, right? But I also don't want like a GTA 5 like radio wheel, because what I've noticed with GTA is that radio, eventually you've heard every song on there. And I've
Oh
only,
no, I would just want it where we would have bass tracks where it was very mellow. But if people wanted to listen to their own thing, like for instance, if you played every day and at this point you're gardening to garden, but you want to garden to your own music, yeah, okay, plug it in.
okay, so how about we just say this right now? Let's just make this PC exclusive. This is a Steam only game.
All right,
That
just so you could have the radio
yeah,
feature. in
that
it.
way we could just highest graphics possible. Music.
There's a vision. There's a vision for this game.
Just maybe have like a partnership with Spotify, Pandora, whatever you want.
Yeah,
And
we'll have
just
Spotify
that-
player enabled.
Yeah, just have that ingrained with
With
it.
our own Spotify music playlist
Exactly.
on there.
Like we'll have our own thing on there, but like curated playlists that we work with certain musicians to create. But
Yeah, I like that.
we would have to integrate Spotify. I would like this on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, but there's certain
Xbox already has Spotify like built into the sidebar.
So
Like, it's
does
super
PlayStation,
easy.
but you can't ingrain it in a game. You know what I mean? Like it's a thing that you have to. For me, I have to go to the Spotify app on my PlayStation or my iPhone and then connect it to my PlayStation, and then that's how it works. I don't know how it works on Xbox. But
Yeah, Spotify app through Xbox and then to PlayStation.
Yeah.
To Xbox. I haven't done it on PlayStation.
but it's similar deal. But on PC, I think you could just literally put it in the game. You know what I mean? But maybe eventually we'll work on a port, and then the radio, it could be just our playlist. And then if the person wants, they can do what we do and just play Spotify from the app, right? But I think, yeah, maybe at first PC launch, we'll work on a PS5, Xbox Series X version, and then eventually a VR version. So it's everything.
That works. Yeah.
Except
Okay.
I want the focus to be like
No Nintendo Switch.
yeah, no Nintendo Switch. Fuck that. I do have an idea I want to mention before we go further into the podcast. So this was an idea for a game I was trying to formulate in my head, but I couldn't make a game around it. So let's just throw it in here. I want a game. Sorry. I want in this game, maybe what it is the tutorial. You boot up the game, right? And you start off, and then you plant your first plant. And then from then on, that plant is always going to be your startup sequence. So when you start new game, continue game, load game, and settings and all that, you just look at this plant that you potted when you first started the game. And I want this flower. You don't have to feed it, you don't have to water it or nothing. But while you play this game, after that tutorial, this tutorial plant that you grew is on your start screen. It grows in real time. How
Okay, I'm cool with
flower
that.
will grow. Every time you play the game, however many hours, however many minutes, this plant is growing. And whatever garden you have, it's always, you could see there's an area for this one flower, the tutorial flower. And you could go check on its progress. And maybe, yeah, you could water it. You could do whatever. It won't put anything against it. If you want, you could water it, but it won't change the outcome. Because it's literally just your start screen flower, and it's in your garden.
Yeah.
But it's
It's
your
like a
tutorial
mechanic
flower.
that changes over time. So it's like you can do things to it, but it doesn't really do anything of consequence to it.
Yeah. And
I see what you're going. Yeah, that's cool.
it's just a
I like that.
real-time flower. So if you played this game for, let's say, 3 months straight of gameplay, you'll have a full-fledged flower. And maybe eventually that flower will plant other flowers, and then you'll have more start to grow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just this flower that's just growing literally in real time as you play the game.
Now, we wouldn't do this, but wouldn't it be funny if you didn't check into the game for a while and there was just weeds around your flower? And it's like dry.
Yeah. No, I don't think are weeds in this game. I feel like this is like
No, weeds are not going to be
okay,
in this game.
That's the one thing that's not realistic, because you have the same vision, I think, that I had when you
They're
explained
going
this
to be
game to me.
potted, and then even then they're going to be in greenhouse, so it'll be difficult for a weed to get there because it's not going to
Yeah.
be a strict outdoor grow.
Because like for me, this game is literally just about the planting. You don't have to worry. Pests is the most you have to worry about, and that's just
Yeah.
the gamified version of this, right? That's the only way to make
Mhm.
this a game is to add the pests. Otherwise, it's just a farming simulator without any of the sim.
Yeah. Um. So I like where this is at. I think it's great. It's obviously going to be a $60 game. There's no way. Premium.
Really, I had the
What do
opposite.
you
I
think?
literally had the opposite thought.
What do you think? Like $30?
I thought, yeah,
How?
I
With
thought
if you're gonna
$30.
max it out,
I
well, I
thought
mean, I guess because the scope is limited, or what?
so.
Because
I
you're
thought $30 are free to play. Like that's literally how opposite I was thinking. So my
how could
argument,
you do free to play if like you have this huge flower encyclopedia where you're trying to put all these flowers into games, which means you have to take pictures or at least have really high photos.
the thing I'm thinking is this is a game that not everyone, but most people play. It's like the Animal Crossing. This is like the I don't know, the fucking Pokemon Go for people. This is a game that they just have in the background. That's just they're
I'm
always
cool
playing.
for having fine. I'm fine. We're having a free game and you can buy flower packs if you want them and it's free or it's freemium and for one price of $30 you get everything.
I wouldn't say everything, but okay. How about this?
Most things in like most unlock like you now have the chance to unlock all the flowers. Of course there's going to be packs that come along for holidays or what have you.
Yeah, but what about like all the decorations you could buy in the garden and stuff like that? And
No, none of that. I'm just talking about
I
flowers.
think what it is you could pay
Yeah.
a base price and get this much money and this much you automatically get these many levels, right? And that opens up to you greenhouses and the art atrium that you were mentioning and all that stuff. At first, maybe you if you want to just play free to play, you only get that little 5 plant planter and then you have to build from there and it takes a while. But if you pay a certain price, then yeah, you could just start off with a greenhouse. Maybe not an atrium yet, but like you start off with a secluded environment where you could grow multiple plants and we'll give you flower packs to fill that thing up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just like the idea of this being free to play because it just seems like a game that everyone would be into. Not everyone, but most people would be into as just their background game. This is like the mobile game for PC players. Like you just have this open on your laptop and just let it run. And maybe there could be like a auto mode where you set a list of stuff you're to do and then your character will, not character but like your garden will just kind of grow itself. You just put it on play and then you just kind of go. I don't know if that's something you want to do, but I feel
Yeah, as
like
long as it reaches the masses, I'd be cool with that. I get it. I forget that's going to be a Steam game, so it has to be a little bit different in terms of the economics going in. Now you've explained it to me, I kind of understand where it's coming
I think
from.
this is the first time we ever had a disagreement on price.
That's true. That's true.
I don't
Well,
know.
Jay,
I see it $60. I see your argument, but I feel like free to play would be like
yeah, it
awesome.
would introduce
Yeah.
it to more people, so to say. And I think that's what I'd want to do is get this.
This
in
is
the
like
hands
the
of more
PlayStation
people.
Home for PC
Oh
players.
no, dude.
Maybe
I know, like you. I know you want to say PlayStation Home was good, but it wasn't.
should we put an online aspect to this where like you could go and visit other people's gardens and stuff like that?
I think so. I think you could come and visit. Like if people post it up, you can like take a walk through.
Yeah.
You know, and see what they're doing,
You
how
don't
they
want
have
it
it
to
arranged.
be like Animal Crossing where you could literally just go visit and just hang out. Like maybe one of the decoration items is like benches and like lamps and stuff. And then we'll have like a full
I don't
chat
want it to be
room.
interior decorating with benches and lamps.
You don't want any of that?
Or at least I don't want it to get too complicated because once you get into furniture, it's going to be about furniture. And it's not going to be about plants.
That's true. Maybe what? How about this? This is taken from the 3DS Street Pass game, where all the plants that you grow are in designated areas. That's where you go to like work on the plants. And then right in front of that is automatic seating spaces. But to fill up the greenhouse to make it look nicer, the plants that you're working on will multiply and like spread around the rest. And so it will fill up the greenhouse automatically, but you're only working on this one plot. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, if you'd like to do that way, I feel like at first, if you're just working on a couple plants, you can put them up there or put them up for people to look at. Like, I think that an easy social media thing would be fine, where it's like a capture of just a picture and then you upload it.
Yeah.
Because I think trying to get people into your space may be a little complicated, but I'd see it where if you want to upload your space once it's done and then people can visit it in their own time, and maybe like, I would even be cool like if you get a certain amount of likes, that it can also generate currency because it's Steam, you know. So I wouldn't mind
that's
that either.
like
That way people can kind of visit.
I don't think you play it, but Death Stranding was all about that.
Right. So I think that would be a little fun too, just because that way it'd keep everybody into it because it's already a freemium game. Everyone would like to play it, I hope. So that's where I'd like it to be.
For sure.
All right, Jay, let's get that timer out because we're going to name this game. Tell me when you're ready.
Go.
Great Garden.
I had Bloom or Greenhouse or that's actually it. Bloom or Greenhouse.
I like Greenhouse. Let's go with Greenhouse.
Greenhouse in
Greenhouse.
17 seconds.
Greenhouse is a game that you can buy or purchase for free from the Steam store and later coming to PS5 and Xbox Series X, where you get to garden, raise different plants, unlock more plants, and raise those too. Once you have a garden to be proud of, you can upload it to the internet where other friends can see what you did and what kind of plants you raised, how healthy they are, and give you likes. These likes, along with the plants you raise, will unlock more plants, decoration, pots, as well as more rare gardens to choose from in Greenhouse. All right, Jay. I think we have a game here. What do you think? Would this be a game you'd want to play, and is it fun?
Yeah, I think I would definitely have it just going constantly. You know what I mean? Like I love that Street Pass game, like I mentioned. It was my favorite probably is the Garden Street Pass game. I kind of want to get a 3DS just to play that again. But who's playing Street Pass right now?
Yeah, I wasn't going to let you down, but
but yeah, man, I think there is space for this that doesn't exist yet, and I think it'd be a lot of fun.
I would enjoy this game. This would be a game that I'd come back to every now and then. Eventually, I would forget it.
That's true. I might forget about it.
But
too.
I would target certain plants that I probably have always wanted to grow and try to learn from that. So, now that we have a complete game, what studio would you assign to be able to make Greenhouse the best?
Yeah, so I'm looking studios up. I don't have an immediate studio that comes to mind. I guess whoever's behind Farming Simulator would probably pretty okay with this. Giant Software is the call out there for Farming Simulator. Just because Farming Simulator, they already know how plants work. Obviously, I know Farming Simulator is supposed to be a very real to life farming sim. You know what I mean? It's very realistic. And if they just brought it down, took out all the simulation behind it, and took out like selling crops and all that stuff, and just focused on gardening. And Farming Simulator is like a lot about hay and stuff like that. But if it's just focused on flowers and trees and fruit and stuff like that, they could probably make this the most realistic version of what your vision for it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I see where you're going with that. I was going to go in a similar route in the sense that I chose Frontier Development which is the development studio at the helm of Planet Zoo, which is the spiritual successor to Zoo Tycoon.
Okay. Yeah.
Just because they have an animal and business management sim, I would just want it to morph that into a plant management sim where you even take it where they would be able to make plants, which is usually a slow growth cycle, and kind of accelerate it a little bit while also making it rewarding. And I think they would know how to do that.
So this is going way off base, and they would never do this. And if they took this game over and made this game, it would become much more complicated than both of us ever imagined. I don't know why they came to mind, but the developers behind Eve Online, CCP games, just because they're so meticulous about their game systems. You know what I mean? Like
I don't know much about Eve except for the articles that get written once a year where it's like a battle occurred on Eve. People lost $30,000 as a result. I'm like, what the fuck happened?
Like, I feel like they would take this to the next level of what we're trying to even imagine right now. But I feel like they would do something crazy with this.
I can just imagine they're just getting into like the whole fertilization process and getting into the very deep down edges of plant growth.
I was just trying to think, like maybe Fire Axis, even, you know what I mean? The people behind Civilization. Just someone who pays attention to the small details and every little minute detail of this game. I feel like would do something cool with it.
You're right. And with that, our 106th IP has gone gold. We hope you look forward to this experience that will probably never release. I feel like this one might get copied somewhere. You can write to apphoundgames@gmail.com if you have anything to patch into the game we create today. Also, give us feedback. We are still learning how to make the show better, and your feedback really helps. I just thought about how this game might spin off where you get a fly swatter and swat the flies, and then that becomes its own mobile game. We have a Patreon. If you'd like to back our ideas, please head over to patreon.com/wearenotgamedevs. Patrons receive episodes 2 days early and an extra podcast at the beginning, which you caught the tail end of our conversation at the beginning of this episode. That's patreon.com/wearenotgamedevs. If you liked our show, why not subscribe and give us all the stars on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Store, Spotify, YouTube, and more. And if they ask for a review, instead of reviewing our show, become your in-game critic and review Greenhouse, the video game we just created. Thank you for joining us today. We'll be back next Friday with another new IP. Again, my name is Alex Gonzalez.
And I'm J.E.
Thank you, and please remember that we are not game devs. Happy gardening, guys!
Is that the sign off there?